Hey guys, Set 5.5 just dropped on the PBE servers. After playing some games and watching some streams, I came up with a list of comps that I think are very strong. Keep in mind that since it's still the first day, a lot of these are still subject to change. This information could become outdated in the near future. So the first build I'm going to be talking about is the Sentinel build. In the Sentinel build, it's a build that you're most likely going to be rolling down for at level 8. And the reason why is because you need to look for AKSHAN to win. And AKSHAN is a legendary unit that can hold 80 items really well. So throughout your early and mid game, you're going to be looking for some earlier mid game unit to hold all your 80 items. So some units that are good for this are like Kled, Riven, any skirmisher. You could play a 6 skirmisher mid game and then transition your board into a sentinel board. And then at level 8, when you roll down for 6 sentinels, sometimes you're not going to hit AKSHAN, so you might hit something like a 2-star Draven. So in that case, you could just play a board like this for now to hold your AKSHAN items. And once you get an AKSHAN, you could transfer over all your items from your Draven onto your AKSHAN. And then your sentinel board might look something like this. And then at level 9, you could just throw in a second ranger to help AKSHAN do more damage. So the next late game board is going to be a Karma board with 6 Dawnbringers. I'm not going to go too much into this because it's basically the exact same as last set. At level 8 or level 9, you want to switch this board up into a stronger version. So you could look to play around 4 Invokers instead. And you have a few options here. You could play 4 Invokers with 4 Renewers. Rakan is a really good frontline, and he's also a Renewer, which makes it a lot easier to play into 4 Renewers. Because back then, you only had Lissandra or Vladimir as your 4th Renewer. But now, Heimer, Soraka, Ivern, and Rakan are all really good units. And then if you get a Renewer spat, you can put it on Garen, and then you could just play a 6th Renewer for a really strong 6 Renewer board. Here's the other variation of the 4 Invoker board. Here you're playing 4 Invokers and 4 Dawnbringers, and you're carrying your Karma and your Heimer. At level 9, when you get better units, you could take out your Nidalee and your Riven to play better units like Volibear or Gwen or Fiddlesticks. Pretty standard, not going to go too much into this. Here's another board that is mostly the same. It's the 6 Redeem board. And depending on who you stack, it could either be Lux or Vel'Koz. If you get perfect item Lux, you could stack Lux and position your units like this. If you stack your Vel'Koz instead, you just play a standard 6 Redeem board. So in this case, if you don't have items on your Lux, you just spread out all your units and play traditionally. So later on, when you get to late game, you want to actually drop out of 6 Redeemed. So you want to drop all your dead units like Leona, you want to drop Varus, you want to drop Lux, and then you want to play towards 4 Invokers because that's currently the strongest version of any AP comp in the game. So the Abomination board is still generally the same. You're basically playing for Abomination. The only difference is instead of Rise, you now have Fiddlesticks, which is also a Revenant, which is pretty cool, which encourages you to play Volibear and Ivern more. And 3 really good items you can put on your A-Bomb units are Last Whisper, Warmogs, and Runans. Back then, you usually would put Death Cap on your brand sometimes because your A-Bomb scales really well off AP. But now they actually took it out. He doesn't really scale that well off AP anymore. And now your Abomination actually scales by the stage you're at. So the longer the game goes on, the stronger your Abomination. And usually, just like in set 5, you're just going to be playing a standard Invoker Heimerdinger backline. So Ivern, Teemo, and Heimerdinger. Later on, you can consider playing 4 Invokers. Depends on what you hit. But it's a pretty standard Abomination board. So Draconics, the early game way to play Draconics is still generally the same, but there is a big difference in set 5.5, and the difference is that instead of having only 5 Draconics now, there is now going to be 6. So the 6th Draconic is now Galio, which means it's a lot easier to hit 5 Draconics during your mid and late game. So the general strategy is still the same for playing Draconics. You get 3 Draconics early, you commit onto Draconics, and you stack either your Ashe or your ZYRA. So if you're stacking Ashe, you know, these are pretty good items for Ashe. You want to 3-star your set, 3-star your Ashe. And then mid-game, if you have the option to play 5 Draconics and you're pretty healthy, you could do it. Once you're level 8, you're probably stable because you have a 3-star Ashe. And you have the option to keep playing 5 Draconics until level 9. Once you're getting a bit low, you could pivot out of 5 Draconics to play better units. So for example, you could drop the ZYRA. You could also drop the set and play 4 Rangers instead of 2. So you could have Ashe carry and then your AKSHAN could secondary carry with 4 Rangers. The other variation to the Draconic build is playing ZYRA carry instead. And this primarily depends on what type of items you get. If you get a lot of AD items, you could stack your Ashe. If you get a lot of AP items, you could stack your ZYRA. Same thing with Ashe. You could also play 5 Draconics mid or late game once you're stable, like when you hit your 3-star ZYRA. The difference is late game, once you plan on dropping your 5 Draconics, instead of playing 4 Rangers, you just play 4 Invokers instead. So for example, you drop this set, you drop this Ashe, and then you can just play Karma, and you play Syndra, and then maybe throw in a Garen as your frontline. The Skirmisher build is still very viable. Actually, I personally think Skirmishers got a bit better. The reason why is because the strength of the Skirmisher comp isn't in the late game, but it's in the early and mid game. Usually you only commit onto skirmishers if you're win streaking early with it and you 2-starred everything. But in set 5.5, they made a few major changes to skirmishers, and the changes are they removed one 3-star skirmisher, which is Pantheon, and they replaced it with Irelia, which is a 2-star skirmisher. And they also removed Trundle, which is a 2-cost, and replaced it with Olaf. So the reason why this is important, because now that you have this additional 1 and 2 cost skirmisher, it's a lot easier to hit 6 skirmishers at 3-2 if you roll down. So chances are, if you get out like a Nidalee or something, or like a Lee Sin, and you 2-star a lot of your skirmishers, you're looking to play skirmishers early and mid game. At stage 3-2, if you're only missing 1 skirmisher, 1 3-cost skirmisher, you could actually consider rolling down at 3-2 to try and hit 6 skirmishers to win streak you all the way until stage 5. And then from that point on, you could either commit onto playing Jax, or you could actually pivot this board into something else, like maybe Sentinels, because AKSHAN is a really good item holder for these AD items if you decide not to play Jax. Overall, I think skirmishers are really, really strong early and mid game, and they could be used as a transition to a lot of AD heavy comps. So the last build I'm going to be talking about is the Assassin comp. There were some tweaks to this comp. Basically, in set 5, there used to be 6 total Assassins. They basically ended up removing LeBlanc and Katarina and only adding in Pyke, so now there's 5. And what this means is that you can't hit 6 Assassins unless you get the Assassin spat. This is a really good comp to play into an AP heavy lobby, because a lot of the Mystic units are really easy to fit into the Assassin comp. For example, Fiddlesticks is a Revenant, so it's pretty natural to put him into this comp. And then, since you're only playing 4 Assassins, you can just tech in all the other Mystics as well to play 4 Mystics, and you basically auto-win the AP matchups. If you get an Assassin spat, you could consider dropping 1 or 2 Mystics to play 6 Assassins instead, because that significantly increases your Nocturne's damage. And if you 3-star your Nocturne and you have 6 Sins, it's really, really easy to win the lobby from that point on. So there are a couple of comps that used to be viable in set 5, but as of set 5.5, I don't think they're very good anymore. One of them is Forgotten. So the reason why Forgotten was strong in set 5 was because at 3-2, once you rolled down, you had a really, really high chance to stabilize off of 6 Forgotten units. But now there are only 6 Forgotten units. Back then there used to be like 8 or 9. And they actually changed the trait where you actually need to win rounds with them to make them stronger. Issue with that is these units aren't actually that strong, the early game units, so you need to somehow win with like Thresh, Hecarim, Vayne, and Misfortune. And towards the late game, these units aren't very good anyway, so you end up dropping the units with the Forgotten stack. This basically means that Forgotten is mostly like some early game trait to snowball off of, and then you have to pivot your board into something else. I don't think Forgotten is in a very good spot right now, so I wouldn't recommend playing it. Another comp that got gutted pretty hard was the Yasuo comp. So the reason why Yasuo isn't good anymore was because a lot of Yasuo's damage came from the Dragon Slayer synergy, but they essentially removed that. And they also made Nightbringers a lot weaker because they removed Morgana. Mordekaiser is no longer in the game, and he was actually a really, really good secondary carry in case you didn't hit 3-star Yasuo. Just like Yasuo, APHELIOS is in a really, really bad spot. Back then, you used to be able to play 4 Rangers with APHELIOS and Kindred, but now they remove Kindred, which is the core unit of the APHELIOS build, and they remove Morgana, which was both a Mystic and a Ranger. The reason why APHELIOS was very good last set was because in AP heavy metas, APHELIOS was really good because it was very easy for APHELIOS to fit in 4 Mystics because he has access to Morgana and Kindred. But now that he lost that, he basically doesn't really have any strengths. Darius is also out of the game, so Nightbringers is a very, very bad trait. And the only option is to basically play AKSHAN carry. But if you're playing AKSHAN anyway, you're much better off just playing 6 Sentinels because those units are just a lot better than 4 Rangers and Nightbringers. Finally, I'm going to talk about the Bulldozer comp. So the Bulldozer comp, it revolved around Pantheon and Varus. And the reason why it was strong was because when Pantheon ults, all those damage ticks procs Varus' ulti. But now Pantheon is out of the game, and they also removed Final Whisper, and they also removed Kindred, which is a really, really strong secondary ranger to run with Varus. So basically, Bulldozer is no longer a viable comp either. As always, thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and comment down below. If you're interested in playing set 5.5 on PPE, I added some instructions on how to get access to the PPE servers in the video description. I'm going to be releasing a video pretty soon on the strongest early game boards of set 5.5, so if you're interested in that, I highly recommend you to subscribe to my channel. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.